That's our principal, sir, Ms. Reena Singh. Just welcomed you. And Mr. Sajeev Pillai is also there, who is the head of the senior school. And besides that, we have, I think, a whole lot of children who are waiting with the parents in the waiting room.
A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure despite overwhelming obstacles. A very happy Independence Day and warm welcome to our honorable panelists, Mr. Kishore Rajwani, Managing Director, News 18 India, and Dr. Amit Pathak, esteemed historian from the United Service Institution and practicing radiologist. We are eternally grateful that you are here with us today. We also welcome our Vice Chairman, sir, respected Principal, ma'am, teachers, and dear students. It is our honor and privilege to welcome you all to this panel discussion on the change makers of modern India, proudly organized on India's 75th Independence Day. Just the idea of celebrating Independence Day fills us with the excitement of unfurling the tricolor, taking part in celebrations, and listening to patriotic songs that bring back the memories of our great freedom fighters who earned us an independent India. But today, we wish to go a step ahead. Today, we wish to pay a tribute to the real heroes of India who held the country together in its darkest hour. The student body of our school believes that a decade from now, the real heroes would be very different from our conventional understanding of this honor. Today's event is their attempt to acknowledge and embrace this transition. So let us begin this tribute by inviting our school vice president, Vanya Kesari, to formally welcome our esteemed panelists.
Good evening, everyone. We are honored to have with us one of the pioneers from the field of journalism, Mr. Kishore Rajwani. Managing Director at News 18, Mr. Ajwani has worked with ABP News and DD Sports as an anchor, Z News as Deputy Executive Producer, and Leo Burnett as Senior Media Executive. An alumni of Mudra Institute of Communications in Ahmedabad and Delhi School of Economics, Mr. Ajwani has also worked as an international marketing manager with Exclusive Handicrafts. With his specialty being broadcast journalism and new media, Sir has been the voice of the nation and for the nation for many years. In Sir's own words, Sobat Ki Ek Baat. He is one of the finest journalists and news anchors in India. Sir, we are truly humbled by your presence today and thank you for giving us your precious time. We also have with us our guest speaker, Dr. Amit Pathak, Senior Fellow, Center for Armed Forces Historical Research, United Service Institution. Sir has authored a number of subjects on history, the last two being 1857 Living History and History of Culture of Western Uttar Pradesh. He has two upcoming books that are greatly awaited for, Meerut 1857, A Battlefield Guide, and the Alha Folk Rendition and Military History of India, 1000 to 1800 AD. At present, he is working on subjects like anti-colonial uprisings of northeastern India and Bundelkhand and the Great Uprising of 1857. Sir has undertaken many projects in Meerut in coordination with various government agencies linked to history and tourism, as well as projects in villages around Western UP, which fought in the anti-colonial uprisings of 1857. Fluent in Hindi, English, and Assamese, Sir is a doctor, a practicing radiologist at Meerut, as well as a historian. It is such a pleasure to have you here with us, sir. We are really excited for our interaction with you today.
Thank you, Anya. It is true that no one can help everyone, but everyone can help someone. To share how the students of the Khaitan School, Noida, live by these words, I now invite Sanika Singh, the president of our school. An active interactor and aspiring lifelong Rotarian, Sanika has been an enthusiastic volunteer and participant in the school's community outreach programs. I would request her to shed light on the same. Over to you, Sanika.
Thank you so much, Halak. A very warm good evening to the respected dignitaries and all the audience members. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, a man's true wealth hereafter is the good he has done to his fellow man. We at the Khaitan School make it a point to live by those golden words of Gandhiji and foster that spirit of gratitude and charity. It is my honor to now give you a glimpse of a few community outreach projects that we have undertaken over the past year with this vision under the able guidance of our community outreach head, Ms. Bindu Gupta. In the month of January 2021, the Student Cabinet organized a first-of-its-kind Samaritan service project in which we raised a staggering sum that crossed over 1 lakh in amount with donations from students, parents, and faculty members. Part of the fundraiser amount was used to buy 80 blankets, and the same were distributed among the ailing destitute senior citizens of an old age home in Dankor, Uttar Pradesh. With the motive of each one, teach one in mind, TKS organized a book donation drive in March this year. The primary, middle, and senior school libraries were completely revamped, and the reservoir of more than 7,000 books that had been taken out was donated to various schools and organizations who are perhaps not as privileged and hence in need of better academic resources. Following this, we conducted yet another successful social outreach project in August this year, wherein various items of necessity like dry rations, masks, stationery items, etc. were given to the destitute resident children of Seva Group Foundation and Gharonda Bal Shishu Grah as a gesture of respect and consideration for our fellow beings in distress. Most recently, our school also volunteered to place a bulk order of umbrellas from Netra, an NGO affiliated with the National Association of Disabled Enterprises, Project Unnati. These umbrellas are being made by their blind associates, and hence the proceeds went directly to the care and support of the visually impaired. We are also currently looking forward to help the flood victims of Raigad, Maharashtra with the amount raised earlier this year. This has been our role in giving back to the community in such distressing times. We hope to carry forward this spirit of compassion and humility throughout the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanika. Your presentation has already got us excited for the next chapter of our community outreach program. The frontline workers, that is the healthcare workers, delivery boys, garbage collectors, vegetable vendors, security guards, social activists, journalists, and all those who were involved in serving households during the second wave saved lives and ensured essential services reach each and every corner of our country. Their inspiring stories of sacrifice and selfless service were the guiding lights that led us to the end of a very dark tunnel. The students of the Khaitan School Noida reached out to many such gallant workers and compiled a short documentary tribute. With this video, we wish to salute the champions who taught us the true meaning of patriotism. Sir, could we please play the video?
Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear uniforms. Some wear stethoscopes. Some ride on empty roads with heavy bags full of food, groceries, and medicines. While some others rekindle the spirit of humanity by losing themselves in the service of others. As children, we dreamed of heroes that would dash across the sky in bodysuits that flaunt their muscles. But instead, what we witnessed was far more glorious than any fantasy. We witnessed the power of human effort, the intensity of ordinary beings working tirelessly in PPE kits that were more awe-inspiring than any cape donned by a fictional hero. The second wave of COVID proved that one does not have to be a superhuman in order to be a superhero. This Independence Day, the Khaitan School Noida pays a tribute to the change makers of modern India, a token of gratitude to all the essential and frontline workers who held the country together in its darkest phase. As our country was strongly gripped by the clutches of the second wave of COVID, fearless workers all over India raced against time to tackle this unimaginable crisis. Sheer helplessness, unending exhaustion, and the misery of watching patients suffer despite all efforts. The doctors of our nation pushed through inhuman levels of impact on their own mental health to treat and help patients.
So, ma'am, my first question to you would be, as a frontline worker, what kind of difficulties or challenges did you face during the pandemic? And when it was the most difficult to move forward, what really motivated you and what kept you going?
Most important is the manpower or human resource challenge, that is to save our nurses and doctors and other paramedics from becoming positive. There were times when my residents were all becoming positive and it was difficult to maintain the basic necessity in hospital. You have to save yourself, your family, your colleagues and patients all together.
We serve the patient, but we suffer a lot too, because we had to do a taxing job, very tiring job.
It became very difficult to communicate our part to the patient's relatives, because they would not believe that we gave our 100% and that we were actually not able to do anything for the patient.
Always thought to be rough and tough, even our policemen unleashed their softer side to show empathy to COVID patients.
जैसे कि बहुत से बुजुर्ग लोग थे और उनको फ़ोन किया, पता लगा उनके घर में बच्चे बाहर हैं, कोई है नहीं, तो हम लोगों ने उनके पास जाकर के दवाओं का पैकेट देना, उनसे सुबह शाम पूछना आप सर कैसे हैं कैसे नहीं हैं, उनका सिटी स्कैन करना।
हमने जो माइग्रेटरी पॉपुलेशन थी या जो गरीब लोग थे जिनका काम बंद हो गए थे कोरोना के चलते, खाना नहीं खा पा रहे थे, उनको खाना भी दिलवाया लोगों के सहयोग से। हमने शमशान में जहाँ कोई लावारिस व्यक्ति कोरोना के कारण मर गया और से कोई परिवार वाला या कोई उनके अंतिम संस्कार के लिए आगे नहीं आया, वो भी हमने आगे बढ़ कर कराए अपने घर भी, ताकि घर वाले हमारे कारण संक्रमित ना हो जाए। घर वालों से भी हमने दूरी बनानी पड़ी।
From the delivery boys who risked their lives to get us the things we needed to survive, to the security guards who gave COVID patients their own shoulder and helped them walk.
डर तो लगता था, लेकिन फिर जब इंसान नहीं निकलेगा तो उनको भी तो चाहिए ना। मैं जब डिलीवरी करने के बाद में वो फोटो अपलोड करके उनको बाहर टेबल पे रख देता था, कांटेक्ट करके बता देता था कि सर आपका ये बाहर रखा हुआ टेबल।
और देश में भी समस्या था, क्या करें, हम लोग गरीब, हम लोग भी जूझ रहे थे, देश में हम लोग भी लड़ रहे थे सर। जैसे हो सके जितनी सहायता कोरोना काल में, फिलहाल हम लोग डिलीवरी के तरीके का सहायता ही कर रहे थे।
कोविड पेशेंट हैं तो उनका राशन, मेडिसिन, खाना, जो भी उनको राशन चाहिए होगा तो हमने उनके फ्लैट भी जाके उनको पहुंचाया।
The importance of sanitation and cleanliness reigned supreme as the virus wreaked havoc on the masses. It was then that the garbage collectors came to our rescue and helped us in our battle.
हम तो रोज आते थे कूड़ा उतारने के लिए डीलक्स में, हमारे तो एक दिन की छुट्टी नहीं हुई लॉकडाउन में, और हमको तो सबके यहाँ से कूड़ा उठाना पड़ता है, तो हमें तो काम करना जरूरी है, नहीं आएंगे तो यहाँ भी दिक्कत होगी।
As anxious citizens waited for news updates in their homes, brave journalists across the country made news coverage their utmost priority, turning their homes into media control rooms and risking their lives to get us real-time updates. Reporters and correspondents played a vital role in uncovering the truth about the second wave. No matter how horrid the situation, their resilience surpassed all obstructions to fulfill their national duty.
Ma'am, you are a journalist and it is certainly a very demanding profession. So in these times of the pandemic, what has been your experience as a relentless frontline worker?
This was very different. Different is the right word, I guess. And सबसे ज़्यादा challenging था शुरुआत में initially कि हम जब बाहर जा रहे हैं, हम पूरी तरह से exposed हैं, लोगों से मिल रहे हैं, जो migrant laborers होते हैं। जब हमने उनकी स्टोरीज करना शुरू किया, आई हैड नेवर इमेजिन कि लोग माइल्स वॉक कर सकते हैं। मतलब कोई दिल्ली से बिहार, राजस्थान, गुजरात पैदल चला जा सकता है, और उनकी स्टोरीज करना, इट वाज हार्ट रेंचिंग।
As the face of education system of our country changed almost overnight, school closures had a very real impact on all students, especially the most vulnerable ones who were deprived of the facilities required for online learning. In such a scenario, many educationists acted as saviors for rural and marginalized children who were forced to suffer the consequences. Our student Sagnik Ganguly interviewed one such philanthropist, Ms. Padmini Kumar, who has been selflessly working for the welfare of such children.
So last year we started something called Sampark or Samvad. You know, Sampark or Samvad means how can we keep them in touch? We have to keep the conversation going on with their parents. First thing is the parents are out of job and they cannot feed even have two meals a day. So we started this program Sampark or Samvad, hoping to see all of them by providing them rations every week. Like that, we had reached out to more than maybe 17 to 18,000 families all around Noida. So that was a good move we did. I am proud to say that today it was a success. We were also awarded by the President of India, Honorable President of India, the kind of work we were doing on the ground.
Like if they were not having phone or internet connection, then we were asked to provide them worksheets, and they were asked to call us whenever they feel any difficulty. Sometimes they were not having money to recharge. The people having phone were not in the home. Okay, so there was a gap between their learning. Okay.
The rage of this flooding wave was met head-on by good Samaritans who fought tooth and nail and saved lives on a daily basis. We witnessed a time when makeshifters turned taxis and autos into ambulances, Gurudwara langars into precincts, giving life-saving servings of oxygen. Ghar Ki Rasoi turned into community kitchens that fed the masses for free, and social media accounts became an Akashvani for medical needs. India truly remains in the debt of all these courageous heroes who exhibited this exemplary form of patriotism that is above and beyond any restrictive definition that describes it. Listening to these stories, we are reminded of the wise words of the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. After all, there is no bigger joy than helping others in distressed times. As the nation battled one of its most testing time, these stories emerged where some were hailed as heroes, some as warriors, and some even as saviors. This Independence Day, the Khaitan School Noida salutes all COVID heroes who restored our faith in humanity during the crisis of the entire civilization. At a time when our hearts were gripped by the trauma of death and suffering, these humanitarians warmed them with their spirit of service. Our heartfelt gratitude and salute to all of them.
Thank you for sharing the video, sir. It indeed filled our hearts with gratitude. It is time for the much awaited interaction with our panelists. I would like to hand over the event to the school president, Jayaditya Mathur, the moderator of the session. Jayaditya is an individual with a broad outlook who wishes to change the world through innovation, technology, and creativity. He has been part of the students' cabinet for the past 4 years, taking up the responsibilities as the vice head boy and prefect. He is an earnest researcher, public speaker, and is passionate about the fields of practical sciences, theatre, world geography, and TED. The floor is yours, Jay.
Thank you, Jhalak. COVID-19 in the past 2 years has changed humankind's perspective. Things that we took for granted have re-established their importance. The pandemic might have brought India's economy to a standstill, but not India's spirit, because the country's true heroes refused to give up. As we remained in our homes safe and sound and carried on with our meetings and classes, they were the ones who put their lives at risk to fulfill the country's daily operations. Right now, their dedication is the only thing keeping our nation strong. Today, we salute the doctors for their unflinching passion to heal the patients despite crushing misery. Our nurses for tending to our loved ones when we couldn't be there for them. Our journalists who faced horrid situations only to keep us informed at all times. Our teachers for shouldering the most important task of educating the nation despite having sick members at home. Our garbage collectors who saved us from the incessant spread of this deadly virus, as well as numerous delivery boys who gave us the privilege of staying safe at home. We earnestly thank all these frontline and social workers for soldiering through these tough times. As a result of lockdown, more individuals are leading isolated lives than ever before. In these tough times, the most important people to the society are those who showcase empathy. Empathy is crucial for our personal development, our relationships, and to society in general. It is important that we make conscious efforts to talk to others, listen to them patiently, and share thoughts. Empathy is the key personality trait for the future generation of leaders. The Khaitan School is honored today by the gracious presence of two masters of their respective field. Joining our panel today is Mr. Kishore Rajwani, Managing Director at News 18 India, and one of the finest journalists of our country. Also joining us is Dr. Amit Pathak, a man who inspires us by wearing so many hats as a doctor, historian, radiologist, and a philanthropist. We welcome you, sir, and thank you for consenting to be our panelist today. In today's discussion, we aim to deliberate on the paradigm shifts that will define the next decade of our nation and review our roles and duties as citizens. And who better to start this discussion than with our keynote speaker, Mr. Kishore Rajwani. Sir, as a journalist, you must have been at the forefront of the second wave and watched all the events unfold right before your eyes. You must have many insights to share with our audience today about what kind of an attitude or spirit matters in such times. Your interaction with the frontline workers must have revealed to you the true meaning of patriotism and what aspect of humanitarians serve as the biggest inspiration for youth today. We would love to hear your take on the values that we seek in the young citizens of our country and also evaluate the shifts for which we must prepare ourselves as a nation. Sir, the floor is all yours.
First of all, thank you for having me. And thank you for saluting journalists along with doctors and the other frontline workers who really shone during those horrific times. The pandemic still continues. It still continues. We still have to be at guard. And as you said, that what have we learned from it and how do we go forward from here? We have Dr. Pathak here. He's a historian. We need this time to learn from history. We haven't. Why were we in this state as a nation was the question that came to us every day when my team who was on the field used to send those dispatches, those reports, bar. We used to have this question in our minds, we have been independent 75 years. Okay, it's a pandemic and it has really shaken the foundations of even the strongest and the biggest and the most prosperous and powerful nation of the world, yes. Lekin, bad news in those times was good news. When we say that Gurdwaras were having oxygen langars, when we say people had converted their auto rickshaws into ambulances, we have to ask the question, is that good news? Why did Gurdwaras have to become oxygen suppliers? Why did all vehicles have to become ambulances? Why was our system not up to it? Okay, it was an unprecedented situation. The system could not have been prepared for that kind of a situation, yes. But why did our doctors have to work continuously 24 hours, week on week? And the answer lies there. And this is what we need to learn, especially children, especially people of your age, because now you will need to take those decisions for this country going forward. What has happened in 75 years, we need to change that. How do we change that? We need to recognize, and we need to learn from history. As Dr. Pathak, who is with us, will tell you, this country has never lost to anybody else but to the fight for identity. हमारे लिए हमारी आइडेंटिटी इंडियन होना कम हो जाती है when we need to make decisions. ये हमको नहीं भूलना है इस पैंडेमिक के बाद. Remember, when we were saving each other, we were all Indians. We were not one from one region, one caste, or people who spoke one language. But why do we vote like that? Because if the legislators, the people who make our law, the people who make our systems, unka incentive is baat pe hai ki they'll win the next election on identity. If you vote for identity, then how can you ask for a hospital? You can't. Ye yaad rakhna. Ye abhi, when we are in school, when we are growing up, it doesn't seem all that important, but इस पैंडेमिक ने यही सिखाया है कि जब वो हो रहा था, तो yes, we need to applaud these workers, these frontline workers. But we need to learn also from what happened at that time. That's my take on this, and I'm very hopeful. And I'm very hopeful that we've been shaken up. I'm very hopeful that, as I can see, students are recognizing what happened in that time, and all these things will go with us for the rest of our lives, and we'll remember this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. It is very rightly said by you that in this time we must ask the right questions, and learning, we must take lessons from our past. That is how the humanity moves forward. Absolutely, sir. On that note, I would like to welcome Dr. Pathak and hear what he has to say about the same. Dr. Pathak, as a historian, you have thoroughly analyzed major movements that have shaped our nation as we see it today. I'm sure you have a lot to contribute to this discourse over what we can expect 25 years down the line as India would celebrate its 100th Independence Day. The youth sitting here today would then have turned into mature adults who would have taken the reins of the nation in their own hands. How can they be prepared today to take our nation to great heights on India's 100th Independence Day?
Thank you, Mr. Mathur, and thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Jhalak, and Sarika and Manya for your wonderful introduction, and Reena Singh Madam, and I hold her in such respect for the energy and power that she carries with me, and of course, Mr. Ajwani. I've been seeing. I know him for years. He met me for the first time, but I have met him for years together, and he's a face like a family to me, because as soon as I saw him, and I've heard him, I know him, and how excellent a work he's doing. And in today's discussion, the word that I really liked that he used is shaken up. We were shaken up. We are lethargic. They say that human evolution or development, social development or cultural development, occurs in fits and starts. Most of the time, we tend to land up in a stage of lethargy and continue for a few years till something shakes us up, and then suddenly we open our eyes. If you see the world in 1900 AD, before the First World War occurred, it was a world nearly medieval, not much of a change. But when First World War comes and there's chaos, all systems break up. So many people die in trenches, and when it ends when you see again the world in 2019, 2020, it's a different world. Suddenly people have shifted their focus. There's more input into science, more into research, better organization, better cities. And by the time we come to 1935, you see a world which is quite modern in its thinking process, though obviously with the rise of Nazism and other aspects, a lot of negativity is there, but on a general level, the amount of evolution that took place between those 40 years had not taken place in 1,000 years before them. So there was that First World War shook us, and then the major shakeup of the Second World War. It changed the world, but it's also changed the way people think. The way people, and this is what, again, Mr. Ajwani was saying, cooperation, coordination, and organization within human beings. He had raised this subject. This is what we learned. We have to cooperate more. So the UN was created. Many organizations were created to make us better. Then we see a world which is very different than the world which was there in 1935. We see the amazing rise in technology. We have the first computers coming by the 1950s. We have the jets flying in the air. We have major coordinated efforts in industries, development of science, technology. And by the time we come to around 1990, there is such a major shift that has occurred, or maybe 2000. I'm not touching purposefully the internet age. By 1990 also, the amount of evolution that happened in those 90 years, humans had not had that rapid evolution in 80,000 years of their history. It was those jerks, the moments, the shakeups, which would change the world. But again, internet came with all its advantages coming, which we were actually losing out. We started again going back into a stage of lethargy, and till Corona comes and it tells you this is the best discovery you've had in the last 50 years, because our internet saved us, not just from our mental breakup, being isolated for months in jails, houses had become jails, but in the network which was created and supplied us. And obviously, no internet cannot operate without humans who went out to do things. And so this epidemic taught us one thing. This was the worst in, I think, since the Second World War that humans have faced. We survived. We lived through. We ate, we drank, we talked, we interacted. And such a massive, horrible epidemic also could slow us down, but it did not break us. It could not turn us into a negative trait. We didn't land up in a civil war situation, as a lot of people would say that in such situation, societies break, cultures break, systems break, people start killing each other, people start looting. There was not a single instance of looting all through the lockdown. How could the police have stopped it? It couldn't. There's never. So that showed the wonderful part of us as we have evolved till date. And the next question, obviously, with Mr. Advani, because he works on the front line, he sees things. When people were sitting in the homes, he was seeing what is happening outside with his eyes. It makes all the difference. And one thing he was very right in, and I think that is the fact. Why is we are able to fight? We are able to fight, but why are we fighting with our backs to the wall? Why are we not going out and actively fighting it out? Why are we so weak? Why are we like 1962, Indochina War? When we were fighting, yes, we had the spirit, we survived, but then again, we could have fought much better, much better. We could have thrown the Chinese out beyond Tibet if we had wanted to, but we couldn't. So this question needs to be answered now, and answered by us as well as the coming generations. And I'll close with one small fact. The number of primary health centers in large parts of India, including our own state of Uttar Pradesh, were built by the 1960s. Our medical college in Meerut was built in 1960. This is the only medical college from Saharanpur till Agra. In between, you had Aligarh and Agra there. Not a single other medical college was built till the private medical colleges coming up around 15 years ago. So what was this gap? No primary health center, no new medical college from Dehradun till Noida, and from Aligarh, Agra till Saharanpur. There's only one medical college. What is this status? Where were the resources going in? Where were the priorities of the government? Where the priorities of the, not just the government, because it's a democracy. We shouldn't stop questioning the government. Priorities of the people. And then again, Mr. Advani had rightly said, priorities were upside down. They were thinking within their houses rather than looking out beyond of their doors. We have a tendency to look into our house. We don't turn our faces beyond and look, your drain is flowing outside, your street is broken. No, it doesn't matter. Our faces are inside our house. And I think this corona has probably, and I hope sincerely, it has turned our faces out into the open. And we start seeing the world like Mr. Advani and his team of journalists walking on the street see. This was what the world is. And it is in our hands to change it because we are a democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Coming back to Mr. Advani, as Dr. Pathak said that these jerks will shake us up and lead us to better clarity about our priorities in the future. Do you agree that we are looking at a post-pandemic boom in all areas?
Yes, I do agree. Yes, there would be change. There is already change. There is a change in thinking. There is a change in priorities, and hopefully this change in priorities would continue, because that is the only hope that can save us from anything like this in the future. So yes, see, what we need to persevere with is that we need to remember these images. We need to remember these images, be grateful to the people, to the frontline workers, doctors, policemen, delivery boys, everyone, yes. And remember that ये दोबारा नहीं होने देना है, और उसके लिए we have to prioritize change ऐसे change होना चाहिए जो हम ला सकें, और वो हम ला सकते हैं अगर हमारी priorities ये रहेंगी कि yes, we would want policies that are not such that primary health centers ही नहीं बने, जैसे डॉक्टर पाठक ने कहा, इतने सालों तक बने ही नहीं. क्यों नहीं बने? क्योंकि हमने we didn't bother, we didn't care, we didn't punish is the word, yes, we didn't punish the policymakers for not doing what they were supposed to do, because हमने उनको incentive दूसरी चीजों में दे रखा था. ओके, हमने कोई बात नहीं, हमने प्राइमरी हेल्थ सेंटर ही बनाया, कोई बात नहीं, अपने मेडिकल कॉलेजेस ने बनाया, कोई बात नहीं, अपने हॉस्पिटल्स को मॉडर्नाइज नहीं किया. आपने मेरी आइडेंटिटी को ज्यादा बढ़ावा दिया. इसी वजह से आइडेंटिटी प्लीज अभी हमको मे बी एट दी व्हेन वी आर यंग हमको समझ में नहीं आता, लेकिन ये आइडेंटिटी एक इम्पॉर्टेंट फैक्टर अगर पॉलिसी मेकिंग में आ जाता है तो कंट्री की प्रायोरिटीज पूरी चेंज हो जाती है, वो हमको समझने की जरूरत है।
Right, sir. So it is rightly said that these jerks do change our society completely. And at such times, it is important that we make the right changes in our society and learn the right values. So moving to the next question, and this question is to Mr. Ajwani. Allow me to go a little off topic, but one of the most important quality that future leaders must have is to be able to effectively communicate their ideas and vision to the crowd. You are a renowned speaker of both Hindi and English. So how are you able to maintain the duality between both of these languages, and how should people train themselves to become better communicators?
I think, communication is important. Good communication is important. But I also think in the information age, this age of the internet, and where images carry far and wide very easily, and you don't have to make much effort to carry these images and the message, I think we are giving too much importance to the power of communication. It is important, but what is more important is the message. The message itself, the content, the substance. We don't have to lose sight of that. Style versus substance कहते हैं ना कि some people get away with style with not much of a substance. वो नहीं होना चाहिए. For that, the basics are always going to remain important. When people who come to us in journalism, especially television, it's a lot of glamour. लोग आते हैं बोलते हैं कि we want to be on camera, we are interested in news. But वो बहुत सारे लोगों में उतना बेसिक तैयारी और बेसिक पढ़ाई नहीं होती. शौक होने के साथ साथ वो शौक दिखना चाहिए, वो नहीं दिखता है. So you will find a lot of people who talk too much but have nothing to say, if you get what I mean.
Yes, sir. Dr. Pathak, as Mr. Ajwani earlier said, that we as common citizens have been in a slumber of ignorance. Do you have hope that this will change for the better?
I personally have a lot of hope because I interact with children and I give talks to children and I ask them questions. And I also communicate with all other types of groups. My primary commission is in the armed forces. That is better because they are very well, they have to clear a lot of courses and some of the most intelligent guys go into the forces. That is the easiest communication. The second best group, which is children up after class 8th and up to class 8th and 10th, before they are busy with their careers. They'll ask questions which probably I do not hear on major important channels with very learned people sitting asking. Because I feel those learned people, and I'm sorry to say, and I actually am never negative, but sometimes there's a lot of fossilized thinking that actually created a lot of problem for this country in the past 70 years since we have lost. The 70 years that we literally lost compared to countries like Taiwan or Singapore or Japan or Germany, sort of a lot of countries which are much better, worse state in 1947 than we were. But they've just gone ahead like bullet trains and we are still fighting with very basic issues. So I feel it is all linked to thinking which is closed. And why is it closed? Because somewhere in our culture, a lot of closeness is associated. When we are born in a family, everyone sitting around decides who will be our friend, what type of accent we'll speak in, what clothes we'll wear, what profession we'll follow, we'll talk to, who will not talk to, who can be our friend. So ultimately, you are getting direct, indirect through cues as to what to do. So by the time you are 20, you are closed, and it's like a horse who's been driven by a man with blankers on both sides. So the whole system drives you, and you just become a robot following the system as it follows, and that actually clusters and it destroys minds. So you are not able to think new. You are not able to go beyond what normal should be. But these new children which are coming are not having that burden. And that is why I have tremendous hope for this country, tremendous hope. And it's not just me. I actually was driving down yesterday and talking to my driver, just nice, young, intelligent boy who just couldn't go beyond 10th, but I feel he is very intelligent. So I was sometimes I've become, so I saw something not very good and not was feeling good. He turned and told me, no, sir, not that, no, sir. It is different. Our children, you see, my children in my family, they are very smart. And they are all want to go, you ask them anything, I don't know, and they are the ones who are asking. So there is a major shift in mental focus in this generation, which was born 2000, after 2000. And there is a reason, because this generation was exposed to much more events, and so it could overcome the pressures from surroundings and think of new ideas. And I am very sure they will solve the problems which we are discussing today sitting here, the problems of our past 75 years, as Mr. Ajwani had so rightly said.
Sir, another question to you would be, how do we ensure our posterity has the right kind of attention span that they don't get lost in this influx of information?
Yeah, that is very important, because rooting is essential. You know, if it's a storm, it's roots which protect you, not your branches. So it is essential that when we come about our education process, we inculcate aspects of that rooting within it. And for that, I like to give you, say that if you read the Idiot Freedom Struggle, all the things which people are debating today and not getting their answers, if you read the works of all those freedom fighters, because our freedom fighters were not revolutionaries holding guns and killing and trying to throw the British out. No, they were all thinkers. And most important is, all of them were social workers. They were directly linked to society. They used to live with the people, understand their ideas. People could go directly and talk to Gandhi, talk to Patel. Patel would never throw the person out. No, you could talk to him. We lived with them. They led from the ground. And that is why their ideas, even while they were in jail or outside, they have written tons of information, tons of matter. And in that, all those issues which we are debating today have been discussed. And they have given us solutions. So when we were born as a country, we were lucky to have the solutions only built and written for us. The problem was we did not read them. And sadly, when the curriculums were created, because part of this intelligentsia which created the curriculum and the basis in 1950s and 60s was from the colonial era. So they just carried that colonial perspective beyond 1947. And by the time 1970 came, what the freedom fighters and our revolutionaries had written was all lost. It was not available even to intellectuals. It was lost somewhere. We have to reverse that. That will be our next freedom struggle. And that those ideas, if we start teaching our children from the ground, we should have a work of Gandhi, one book in one class, then Life and Times of Sardar Patel in one class. What Subhash wrote, idea of India as per Subhash, idea of India as per Bhagat Singh. They should be in our curriculum. And if children grow up reading those, instead of reading so many things which do not really matter, I think they will come out to be better human beings with better problem solving capacities, because a lot of issues, as sir was saying, identity issues, a lot of identity issues. We are so occupied with basic ideas, caste, this language is about, Tamil is about, Hindi is about, what is they fighting? Should Indus Valley civilization be called Sindhu Saraswati, or should it be called Indus Valley, or should it be called this? They are fighting on names. For a intelligentsia of freedom struggle, that was immaterial. So I think we should go back to them, and they will solve our problems. And I think that solution lies. And this identity issues are baseless. and they are actually at the root, as Mr. Advani, he is continuously going behind that, and that is the fact. These identity issues which were ingrained into our political process are at the root of what we are facing today.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ajwani, you as a journalist know better than anyone that there are just so many sources of information that we as youth sometimes feel lost and don't know what to believe. What advice would you give us so that we stay informed in a better way?
More and more. See, to have a proper perspective, one should have views of all kinds, and more is always better. And I'm deliberately saying more. When I say more, I mean varied sources of information, not more from the same kind of sources of information. For example, if first of all, don't brand information. Don't brand information as this is based on this is based on that, this is biased, this is this. Don't brand it. Just imbibe it, process it, and gradually one would understand what information has what basis and what information, even if it's motivated, what is the motivation behind it. For example, people go on and कि इसने ये क्यों कह दिया, उसने ये क्यों कह दिया. Kyun is not important. We should have the context behind everything. Then we will be able to process it better. If PTV, the Pakistan television, if PTV says that Kashmir में Indian Army ने ये कर दिया, you know the credibility of that source. You know it is Pakistan saying that. So you know Pakistan, a Pakistan government channel saying something on Kashmir has got to be on a certain line. तो आपको पता है कि अरे हाँ पाकिस्तान तो यही कहेगा. So because you've had varied sources of information, so you would process it properly. The problem is not कि information सही कौन सी है. Information को सही process क्या करना है, that is the issue. And वो process करने की ताकत सिर्फ हर तरह की varied information gather करने से होती है. If you just rely on one source of information, if you rely on one kind of source of information, then आप ये लड़ते रह जाएंगे कि राणा प्रताप ने हल्दी घाटी जीती थी या नहीं जीती थी. अब 10 बार पढ़ लीजिए ना, 10 जगहों से पढ़ लीजिए. You'll get the proper perspective.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request respected principal ma'am to share her thoughts and words of wisdom with us.
Good evening to everyone. A big welcome to both the panelists, Mr. Kishore Ajwani and my dear friend, Dr. Amit Pathak. While I was listening to the whole conversation, I felt I did the right thing by arranging this webinar and the perspective that we are talking about. 75 years of independence, when we came up with the whole school, that what we needed to do, I was very sure that I did not want it to be a mere symbolic celebration. Because symbols are okay when you're making a new nation. We are no longer a new nation. We are a 75-year-old nation who have consolidated. And I understood the immense responsibility that the students sitting in the classrooms today, 25 years when we celebrate the 100th year of independence, they would be the one who would be leading the country. As educationalists, what are we delivering? What are we doing with them is a question that came into my mind. And I wanted it should be completely student driven. As a principal, as educationists, we feel is, principals should talk less, teachers should talk less, and the children should get into a more reflective mode. And I think the way both of you have spoken, I am immensely grateful for it. What Mr. Ajwani said, that style should not take over, and the content and the substance is so important. I mean, he touched my heart, because I feel the content has been missing out from all our dialogues in our classrooms more and more. Our youth somehow is worrying sign for me when I see them getting more attracted to the glamour and losing its substance. There's absolutely a sense of identity crisis. You believe me, you come back to the classrooms and you will see how we believe in aping everything and we're losing the Indianness that we worked off. Dr. Pathak, absolutely, we are not teaching Subhas, we are not teaching Patel. I think the students have forgotten them absolutely. Where are those? Our curriculums do not speak about it. It is time that I would want, all the people to come over and start having a conversation that what should be taught into the classrooms. I hope the new NEP brings about those if possible, but unfortunately we are still not doing it. And we have generations of students passing out who do not even know the kind of sacrifices that our forefathers made for freeing this country. So it's a very, very reflective understanding that I have, that has come up. The question that I want to have both the panelists, ask, to ponder upon and help me think. We all say, 25 years, how the technology will change, everybody talks about. People have been more and more talking about 21st century skills. I don't see conversation happening. What would be the values of Indianness? What kind of a value system our students would be required to have in the years to come? This is one of the purpose why I wanted my students to have this webinar, to make them demystify the understanding of a hero. Fortunately or unfortunately, the understanding hero is either when they're a kid is a Superman and the super Spider-Man and all those, and by the time they grow up, it becomes a Bollywood star, or maximum it stretches to a cricket star. I wanted them to demystify and understand how a common man, it can be a superstar, can be the hero. So I have two questions from both of you. What would be the values that you think but in next 25 years? And who do you think will be the heroes of these students in the next 25 years? So over to you, Kishore Ajwani sir. What do you think? हमारे values क्या होंगे? संस्कार क्या होंगे? गायब हो गए?
हाँ, एक तो संस्कार is a much maligned word.
Exactly.
So as Dr. Pathak rightly said, I would urge all students to read people whom we have forgotten. See, आप values की बात कर रहे हैं, policy making की बात कर रहे हैं. अभी अगर आप थोड़ा बहुत कोई politics में interested भी होता है, और policies में interested भी होता है, the way our bureaucracy works उसमें interested भी होता है, तो उनको ये पता है कि there's a right wing, there's a left wing, there are communists, there's BJP. People have forgotten there was a man called C. Rajagopalachari. People have forgotten there was a Swatantra Party. आप उस स्वतंत्र पार्टी के क्या ideals थे वो पढ़िए. See, the whole world में right wing, left wing, liberals आए. हमारे यहाँ liberals भी एक malign word हो गया है, secular होना भी एक malign word हो गया है, communal का हमारे यहाँ कुछ और मतलब हो गया है. Values किस तरह की चाहिए? एक स्वतंत्र पार्टी थी, उस पार्टी ने ये तय किया था कि उनके जितने भी legislators होंगे या MPs होंगे, they will not be governed by a whip. आज हमारे पार्लियामेंट में, आज हमारे assemblies में एक whip होती है. The party decides, the party to which you belong, the party on whose ticket you get elected, the party decides that on this law, हमारी पार्टी का stand ये है और हमारे सारे legislators उस stand पे रहेंगे. That's a whip. Rajagopalachari said, this is totally anti-democratic. हमारे legislators अलग-अलग constituencies से आए हैं. They should have the freedom to decide. The party should not decide, so we will not have a whip. ऐसे ही उनके बहुत सारी चीजें थी regarding public investment, private investment में should read. लेकिन whenever I go back to this whip thing, मुझे याद आता है कि okay, we had a party like that. We lost it, in the 1962 elections, that was the main opposition party. The main opposition party was the Swatantra Party. That was the largest opposition party, and we've lost it. So, एक पूरा stream of politics ही हमारी खत्म हो गई, liberal politics. ये values हमको, मैं नहीं कह रहा कि हमको वो party वापस चाहिए, मैं कह रहा हूँ कि ये values हमको चाहिए. हमको when we go on choosing the kind of policy makers we want, तो हमारे पास choice है. Do we have a choice? We don't have a choice. आप जब वोट देने जाते हैं तो there is no choice, because all of them on major policies have the same. सब कुछ सेम है उनका पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट में सेम है, एजुकेशन के ऊपर उनका सेम व्यू है, पॉलिसीज इंटरनेशनल पॉलिसी में एवरीबॉडी इज गॉट द सेम व्यू. कोई डिफरेंस तो है नहीं, इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी में कोई डिफरेंस है नहीं, आप बट वो चॉइस ही नहीं रही. सो वी हैव अ डेमोक्रेसी विद नो चॉइस. We had Dr. Ambedkar. He has been, now all of us know him as a Dalit icon. He was probably one of the greatest economic thinkers of the 20th century. आप उनकी economics पढ़िए. That has been lost. So these are the values we need to go back to.
Yes.
I think Dr. Pathak would add to that.
Absolutely, Dr. Pathak. Yeah.
Actually, and this is essential. And good part is lucky we were compared to countries in Africa, countries in Latin America and Southern America, and many Pacific nations. And our homework was done. You know, our teachers were very well prepared. They did all our work. What we had to think, they had already thought and given the replies. It was just that we had to read what they were saying, because they are not live, they are not perpetual. So, but they have left the material. So it was, and how we disconnect our children from our past. And actually that is what causes a mental disconnect with your ground. I'll tell you a simple example. Meerut has a line of schools at exactly the same place where the uprising of Meerut 1857 started. Exactly. Where the bungalow sites have been converted into schools, now which were attacked and burned that time. In those schools, in the school curriculum, the uprising of 1857 is just one chapter in 1 year. And there is only one line for Meerut. Uprising of Meerut started, uprising of 1857 started in Meerut. Now this child is sitting on the ground where the uprising happened, you know, exactly where the attacks were there, where the British Raj, jahan kaha gaya ki tumhara Raj khatam ho gaya hai, hamara shuru ho gaya. He's sitting, he doesn't read anything about the soil on which he reads that. So his whole 8 or 10 years of curriculum is disconnected from his ground. Another example I'll give you, best school in Meerut, I went and asked, one basic question. All children, okay. Tell me the districts which are around Meerut districts, which have borders with Meerut district. Only one child could say, and he also missed Amroha, but he said, and they were class 9th and 10th of the best school. And I said, if I ask you the states of the United States, nearly all the hands will be countries of Europe. You have hands of, but you don't know the districts around your own district, which districts surround you. So our education system, which we have created, creates a disconnect, and this disconnect creates a mental fluidity, and the children, when they grow up, are not able to connect. It is not the mistake of the child. And I strongly feel it was, and exactly what Mr. Advani, obviously he has such a wide experience, met nearly so many people, he is saying it, that we have to bring the children back to our basics. Basics are already there. And unless we do that, our fluidity, this questions of disconnect, this question of not carrying the right Indianness within you will surface again and again. And I think this is the right time, and the pandemic has taught us that we should rethink all our priorities of the past 75 years.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really, really enlightening. Jay, over.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to ask you and Mr. Ajwani if you would like to entertain some more questions from the students, if that's possible.
Yes.
Yeah, that's no problem.
All right. So I would like to invite Sanika Singh, President Female, to ask her question.
Thank you, Jay. And thank you so much to Sir Kishore sir and Amit sir for sharing their enlightening thoughts with us today. So both of you in your speeches as well in the enlightening discussion mentioned the need for cooperation. And Amit sir in particular had talked about the traditional closeness of Indian mindset. So sir, my question is to both of you, and it's related to the same. The past year has definitely shown us that the world is a global village. And in order to emerge from the pandemic, all nations and its leaders have to join hands for recovery at an international level. But it is no secret that considering the nature of world politics, we often see how this aim of international progress is muddled by each nation's personal interests and the political agendas. So how would you say that the two forces of patriotism and international progress can be brought to work in harmony instead of in conflict?
Dr. Pathak?
Sir, it is up to you, sir. You are more experienced in
This is about, see, this is not a new question, as Dr. Pathak will tell you. This is the nationalism versus cooperation among nations. A question that's been there since 1910, since the First World War. And when Rabindranath Tagore wrote those lines in "With the Mind is Without Fear," he was talking of these narrow domestic walls. So how would we solve this? See, again, it goes back to these narrow domestic walls. When he says, when Gurudev says, "With the mind is without fear, and the head is held high." So it's and the kind of society, Dr. Pathak ne kaha, we look inside our homes. What we look at is we have basically the सबसे बड़ा international thesis तो भगवद गीता है. If you read it in that fashion, उसमें क्या है कि आपको कर्म करना है, फल की इच्छा नहीं करनी है, राइट? हम बिल्कुल उल्टा हो चुके हैं. और स्कूल्स में तो ये, और आप जिस एज में हैं उनको आपको बिल्कुल समझ में आएगा, मार्क्स आर सो इम्पोर्टेंट. मार्क्स आर सो इम्पोर्टेंट. सब कुछ मार्क्स पे है. और वो हम उसको, अगर हम ऐसे ही चलते रहेंगे तो आप इंटरनेशनल क्या कहीं पे भी कुछ भी नहीं कर पाएंगे. और ये स्टाइल वर्सेस सब्सटेंस वाली डिबेट भी वहीं चली जाती है. बिकॉज और वी अपलॉड दीज. और जैसे जो यही मार्क्स वाला ही तो आगे चल के इलेक्शंस में चला जाता है कि अच्छा वो 300+ सीट्स लेकर आया. देखिए भाई साहब क्या स्ट्रेटेजी थी. वो चाणक्य है. चाणक्य वुड बी टर्निंग इन हिज ग्रेव व्हेन एवरीबॉडी ऑफ दीज, जो ये इलेक्टोरल अरिथमेटिक करके लोग चाणक्य बन जाते हैं. सी, इट इज ऑल अरिथमेटिक. पॉलिसीज पे कोई बात नहीं, सीधा रिजल्ट्स ये कि उसके कितने लेजिस्लेटर्स आ गए. बस हमारे पास 300 हैं, हमारे पास 400 हैं, हमारे पास 500 हैं. ये और यही हम मार्क्स में कर रहे हैं कि हमारे पास इतने परसेंट है, हमारे पास इतने परसेंट है, इतने परसेंट है. मतलब आई एम सॉरी बट दिस 95%, 98% has become a joke.
It's a joke. It's a complete collapse.
It's a collapse of our education system if everybody is getting above 95%. मुझे बार-बार वो लगता है कि in our country all bad news has become good news. Everybody getting 98%, everyone सुपर अचीवर हो रहे हैं. अचीवमेंट का ही हमने डिवैल्यू कर दिया है. तो इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे भी वही प्ले आउट कर रहा है. अब आप अगर सुनिए, ये जो मुझे आई कॉल इट एन एक्सीडेंट ऑफ बर्थ, दिस पैट्रियोटिज्म इन दिस नेशनलिज्म. वी डिडंट चूज टू बी बोर्न हियर. हमको पैदा होने से पहले ग्लोब घुमा के पूछा नहीं था भगवान ने कि ये कौन सी कंट्री चूज करनी है पैदा होने के लिए. आज की डेट में आपको पूछा जाए आप कौन सी कंट्री चूज करेंगे, आई थिंक आप स्कैंडिनेविया चूज करेंगे, फिनलैंड चूज करेंगे, नॉर्वे चूज करेंगे, ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स जहां पे अच्छा वो चूज करेंगे. हमें अपनी कंट्री वैसी बनानी, उस दिशा में ले जाना है. आई होप you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir. For the next question, I would like to invite Aditya Mukherjee.
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We can hear you.
Yes, sir. Sir, so my question is that during the first wave of COVID, we saw migrant laborers walking back to their native villages and the various problems they faced. During the second wave, we saw further loss of jobs. In response to this, we have seen the government, NGOs and individuals come forward with free food and other benefits for these migrant laborers. But this is only a temporary solution to a much, much bigger problem. Apart from these donations, as a society, what can we do to ensure sustenance and livelihood for these migrant laborers during this crisis?
As I said, bad news, good news हो जाती है ना. What can we do? We can vote on policies that create jobs. We are voting on temples. You vote for a temple, you'll get a temple. You vote for a mosque, you'll get a mosque. You won't get jobs. You won't get schools. as Dr. Pathak said, प्राइमरी हेल्थ सेंटर बने ही नहीं, किसी ने परवाह की क्या? अब हमको पता चल रहा है हमारे पास प्राइमरी हेल्थ सेंटर थे ही नहीं इतने साल. So see, we have a system in place. We've got a wonderful system in place that we elect legislators, they make policies, those policies drive the country. But we elect them on what? We are electing them on issues which actually don't matter. The pandemic showed to us कि अगर मेरी कास्ट का मेरा एमएलए है, उससे क्या मिल गया मुझे? जब पैंडेमिक आया तो क्या मिल गया? ये खुशी मिल गई, कह रही है मेरी कास्ट का है, उसे क्या हुआ?
Actually, ये world of small egos.
Yes.
It is a world of small egos, and मेरी ego satisfied है, and I am happy. उसके बाद चाहे मेरे पास कुछ भी नहीं है, मैं निकलता हूँ, मेरा पैर जाके नाली के अंदर गिरता है, उससे मुझे प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मैं खुश हूँ. मेरा नाला शहर में बह रहा है, पिछले 70 साल से वैसे ही बह रहा है और गंदा हो रहा है, पर आई एम हैप्पी, मैं खुश हूँ क्योंकि मेरी ईगो सेटिस्फाइड है, पता नहीं कैसे क्यों. और मैं तो इसको समझता हूँ कहीं ये कलेक्टिव साइकोसिस है और इसको ब्रीड किया जाता है, इसको इनकलकेट किया जाता है, जिससे लोग जो है एक हेज से में डेज से में रहते हैं और वो सवाल नहीं उठाते. और एम्प्लॉयमेंट के लिए क्यों आ रहा है ये आदमी बिहार से दिल्ली काम करने, या सबसे पहला सवाल है क्यों आ रहा है? आ इसलिए रहा है कि उसके वहां फैक्ट्री बनी ही नहीं. हमारे यहाँ पूरे रीजन में अराउंड, जब नोएडा नहीं था उस जमाने की बात कर रहा हूँ, उस जमाने में आप जाएंगे और आप बरेली से शुरू हुई है दिल्ली तक आइए, और इधर फिरोजाबाद से शुरू होकर दिल्ली तक आइए, इधर सहारनपुर से शुरू होकर दिल्ली तक आइए, हर शहर एक इंडस्ट्री मास्टर करता था. लावड़ जैसा गांव भी कंबल बनाता था, तो पूरे हम लोग क्या मिलते थे कि लावड़ के कंबल आए हैं, पूरा गांव कंबल बना रहा है, उसका काम ही पूरा, हर बच्चा एम्प्लॉयड हो जाता था ऑटोमेटिकली उस सिस्टम के अंदर. हैंडलूम बनते थे मेरठ में. ये हमने क्या किया, जिस जमाने में चाइना अपनी इंडस्ट्रीज ग्रो कर रहा था, फॉर सम ब्रेनलेस इकोनॉमिक रीजन, हम लोगों ने पॉलिसीज ऐसे लाए कि जो हमारी फैक्ट्रीज थी वो बंद होती चली गई. कानपुर के बीच में अगर आप खड़े होंगे तो इतना बड़ा एक फैक्ट्री बंद का आपको, जो सबसे बड़ा मॉन्यूमेंट है ना, कानपुर जो कैसा शहर है आपने देखा है ना, उसके अंदर एक ही मॉन्यूमेंट है, वो एक बंद फैक्ट्री लाल इमली के बीच में, सारा कानपुर उसके तरफ घूमता है. वो बंद फैक्ट्री आज भी उस क्योस, उस दिवालिया मानसिकता की प्रतीक है जो कानपुर के बीच में खड़ी हुई है, जिसने हमारी फैक्ट्रियां बंद की. उसके बाद सामान तो चाहिए तो आएगा बाहर से, तो और कंट्रीज ने हमारा फायदा उठाया. ये रिवर्सल जो प्रोसेस है कि दोबारा फैक्ट्रियां लगें, क्योंकि सरकार को नौकरी देने की वजह फैक्ट्री लगनी, ये रिवर्सल प्रोसेस जब तक हम शुरू नहीं करेंगे तो हमें बिल्कुल, इट इज ट्रू, हम ये सवाल पूछते ही नहीं कि भाई हमारे घर के अंदर जो फैक्ट्री थी बंद क्यों हो रही है हमारे पास. मेरठ में टायर बनते थे, आप सोचिए, इंटरनेशनली एक्सपोर्ट होते थे, वो बंद पड़ी है. मैं पिछले 25 साल से उसको 30 साल से देख रहा हूँ या 35 साल से, मैंने टायर बनते देखते हैं अपनी लाइफ में. क्यों? बट आप बच्चे हैं ना, आप बाद के हुए, तो आपने देखा ही नहीं एक समा वो भी था जब पूरा मोदी नगर फैक्ट्रियों से भरा हुआ था. आप इधर से उधर जाते थे, मोदी नगर में फैक्ट्रियां खत्म नहीं होती थी, एक समा वो भी था, आज एक ही चल रही है वहां. तो ये सवाल जब तक बच्चे आप लोग सरकारों से नहीं पूछेंगे, अपनी व्यवस्था से नहीं पूछेंगे, उनको कोई मतलब नहीं है. वो आपको भ्रम में डालेंगे, बड़ी बड़ी बातें करेंगे, आपको फंसाएंगे और अपना फायदा निकालेंगे.
ये बिहार
साहूकार
बिहार का आपने प्रश्न उठाया. बिहार में जो हम सवाल नहीं पूछते, बिहार बैकवर्ड क्यों है? बिहार में फैक्ट्रीज क्यों नहीं है? गुजरात में फैक्ट्रीज क्यों है? क्यों है? ब्रिटिशर्स ने पॉलिसी बनाई, सारा आयरन, स्टील, व्हील, तो सब, सारा मिनरल्स तो बिहार में थे. फैक्ट्रीज गुजरात में क्यों हो रही थी? उन्होंने पॉलिसी बनाई, फ्रेट इक्वलाइजेशन पॉलिसी, कि इफ यू टेक आउट स्टील एनीवेयर इन दिस कंट्री, इट विल बी अवेलेबल एट द सेम कॉस्ट अक्रॉस द कंट्री. मतलब आपको स्टील बिहार में भी उतने का मिलेगा, गुजरात में भी उतने मिलेगा, महाराष्ट्र में उतने का मिलेगा. दैट वाज द फ्रेट इक्वलाइजेशन पॉलिसी ऑफ द ब्रिटिश. तो ऑब्वियसली वो गुजरात और महाराष्ट्र में बनेगी फैक्ट्रीज, क्योंकि पोर्ट वहां पे है. आप वहां से एक्सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, वहीं इंपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, ट्रेडिंग वहां हो सकती है. स्टील तो मैं बिहार में फैक्ट्री क्यों लगाऊंगा? मैं पहले वहीं लगा दूंगा जहां पे एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट हो रहा है, और स्टील तो उसी रेट पे आ ही जाएगा. वो ब्रिटिशर्स ने अपने कन्वीनियंस के लिए किया था, बिकॉज उनको वहां से एक्सपोर्ट करना था. लेकिन 47 के बाद हमने फ्रेट इक्वलाइजेशन पॉलिसी कब चेंज की? 1991 इन द मनमोहन सिंह लिबरलाइजेशन दिस थिंग, तब वो फ्रेट इक्वलाइजेशन पॉलिसी चेंज हुई. 1947 से 1991 तक हम वही पॉलिसी चला रहे थे जो ब्रिटिशर्स की थी, तो बिहार में क्यों लगाएगा कोई इंडस्ट्री? ये सवाल हमने पूछा ही नहीं, ना हमने कभी इस पे वोट दिया, ना हमने कभी बोला कि ये पॉलिसी गलत थी, और ना जब ठीक हुई तब हमने उसको रिवॉर्ड भी किया
और उसकी तारीफ भी दी
और ना हमें अभी तक पता है.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. This was indeed a wonderful discussion. Now, music speaks louder than words. So without further ado, we would like to present a song performed by the school choir on our country and homeland.
धन्य धान्य पुष्प भरी वसुंधरा, ये हमारी उसमें है ये देश हमारा, सब देशों से न्यारा, इसे सपनों से सजाया हमने, स्मृतियों से है घिरा। ऐसा देश जहाँ में ढूंढे पाएगा ना कोई, सब देशों की रानी है ये हमारी जन्मभूमि, ये प्यारी जन्मभूमि, ये हमारी जन्मभूमि। ऐसी प्यारी नदियाँ कहाँ कहाँ, ऐसे धूम्र पहाड़, आहाँ खेत हरियाली, ऐसे नीले आकाश तले, यहाँ हरी भरी खेतों पे डोले फुलवरियाँ हौले हौले। ऐसा देश जहाँ में ढूंढे पाएगा ना कोई, सब देशों की रानी है ये हमारी जन्मभूमि, ये प्यारी जन्मभूमि, ये हमारी जन्मभूमि।
That was indeed a wonderful song, filling our souls with patriotic feelings. Now I would like to request Principal Ma'am, Ms. Reena Singh, to give the concluding note.
Very difficult to give a concluding note because this conversation, it seems as if it has just begun. Itni sari baatein hai, there are so many things that came out that the debate actually I would have loved to continue. But I would definitely say that this conversation between students and the two eminent panelists, in some way or the other, I will definitely ensure कि ये बातें आगे चलती रहे, and it's just not one Independence Day celebration, because these are very important messages that both of you have given, and that needs to be taken forward. The whole idea of notion, what to be deconstructed and what to be constructed, it's something as this understanding that has evolved. I would want to continue it further, and thank you both of you for making it here. I know on a Sunday, Independence Day, immensely. There's a doctor, there's a journalist, extremely busy people, but yet to come here and to motivate our students, and not only to motivate, to transform their minds. I think that's an important task that both of you have done today. You have been able to transform the children's mind. And even if I said 20 students start thinking about what the nation is going to be 25 years down the line, or शायद एक अभी immediately जाके शायद कोई किताब उठा ले गांधी की या पटेल की, I think we would have done what we need to do. So thank you very much. Hope to see you soon again, this time in campus, because we really want schools to open now. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time. Thank you. I would want अगर कुछ एक शब्द last line जो journalist हमेशा कहते हैं, concluding line, आप दोनों से एक line आ जाए, तो I would be very happy. Thank you.
Dr. Parak.
Sir, thank you. It was amazing, and madam, it was really that. I also got so many new thoughts which normally in routine life I would not have thought, but suddenly the whole environment provoked me to think things, and I sometimes became slightly emotional also with it. But I'd just like to feel that the coming days will be better. And I think the newer generation, which is a smarter generation, will think of things beyond their small bubble and think of a wider world. As we had a question where does India stand internationally, and should we only think of ourselves or at an international perspective? And I think such questions will push a lot of our coming leaders, that is, these children today will be leaders tomorrow. So into thinking of new things, opening the box, and thinking of new solutions to these chronic problems. But while thinking of those new solutions for these chronic problems, they will also get an inclination to look back into their own hearts. And through our history, and I always feel history should be taught not just as kings and queens, understanding what those people thought, what they wrote, what they described, what they felt. And I think through their minds and using their own intellect, they'll create a better future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pathak. Kishore Ajwani, sir, your last concluding lines for the day.
See, जो भी दुनिया में है सब कुछ, the world we see, these were thoughts. किसी ने सोचा ना कि ये होना चाहिए, ऐसा होना चाहिए, ऐसी दुनिया होनी चाहिए. Those thoughts have built this world. So our thinking will shape our future. And to think, you need to open up your mind. मैं तो सबसे एक ही चीज रिक्वेस्ट करूँ कि to open up your mind, we need to read. Pictures, videos are all fine, but then they guide your mind to see things in a certain fashion. But words, when they go into your mind, they open it up and they build their own imagination. So read. If all of us just read, make it it's like just exercise में लोग बना लेते हैं कि I'll walk so many thousand steps today. एक ये भी डाल लेते हैं, I'll read so many words today. Why don't we have apps for that? Why don't we have apps? Why do we have only fitness trackers? Let's have word trackers. Okay, I read 10,000 words today. It'll be great. We'll build a better world.
What an idea. That's a fantastic idea to have word trackers. I hope somebody goes and tries to make this app. So thank you so much. Wish you a very, very happy Independence Day to both of you. Thank you. Over to you, Jayaditya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we come to an end to this wonderful webinar. And I would like to thank everyone for joining. A very happy Independence Day to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.